Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So it's a pretty nice day today, so I decided to bring out all the bikes from the garage and set them up outside in the woods behind my house. And I just thought we maybe would take a quick look at them. I've got over here, I've got this kind of older mountain bike that actually I've hooked up to a ride behind trailer for my for one of the little kids to ride behind. I've got my mountain bike here. I've got my road slash triathlon slash time trial bike here. I've got a commuter bike. I've got my, this is actually a folding bike I picked up. This actually used to be my old commuter bike, which I then painted for my wife, and I'm actually pretty proud of this paint job. Then, you know, my older daughter has a bike there, my younger daughter has another bike there, and then she also refuses to let go of her little mini bike down at the end. So, I don't know, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bikes. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably stared at this and you're thinking, 9 bikes, right? How many bikes do you actually need? Well, I actually discovered that there's actually a mathematical equation which actually will tell you the exact number of bikes you need for your purposes. So you basically take all of the bikes you have, let's call that M. So M is the number of bikes you have, and the equation for N, which is the number of bikes you actually need, is actually surprisingly simple. It's just N is equal to M plus 1. So with that in mind, I want to draw your attention to this guy here. This is actually my mountain bike. So this here is this is actually a 1999 K2 Flying Monkey. So here's a closer look at this old gal. So yeah, she's about 23 years old at this point. So definitely getting a little bit long in the tooth. So it's been a loyal bike for sure. I mean, you can see full suspension, actually hydraulic brakes. So these are the Magura HS22s. But again, these are hydraulic rim brakes, which I guess, again, hydraulics was a little bit innovative back then. But this rim brake design, as you can see, is you don't see this on many mountain bikes nowadays. Other things, it's a little bit old. I mean, it's got a 3x drivetrain, which isn't the greatest. I struggle with this sometimes, but otherwise, this thing is halfway reasonable. You know, it's got some Shimano LX components on it, and like I said, it's been a you know, a faithful, reliable bike, but it's starting to fail. The brakes rub against the rim. The wheels are out of true. It's heavy. The suspension doesn't work so well. It's a smaller wheel. So, like I said, I think after 23 years of loyal service, it might be time to think about retiring this mountain bike and getting another one. So, that's the plan, is let's think about upgrading this bike. And I did a bunch of research and came to a conclusion on a bike that I wanted to get. Alright, so after doing a ton of research, I decided to go with a Kona. I've always really liked Kona bikes. They're a local manufacturer they're based actually just a few miles from where I live, and I've always really liked their bikes. So I decided to go with one of their Process bikes. So if you go to their website, you'll see they've actually got a whole bunch of different ones, and this is, I guess, the one thing where it is a little bit confusing. They've got, you know, the Kona Process X, the Process 153, the Kona Process 134, and then within those lines, they've even got several different versions with different sizes. So for example, down here you can see the Process 134 in the 27.5 wheel size, or the same Kona Process 134 in the 29er size. And then you start looking at, they've got this Process 134, they've got the Process 134 DL, the Process 134 CR. So anyway, long story short, I ended up going with the Kona Process 134 in the 29er size, and it's kind of the entry level full suspension bike. It's kind of an all-mountain setup. You know, I'm not going to make any pretend to be something I'm not, right? I'm not a 20-year-old extreme Whistler bike park mountain hucker anymore. I'm like a middle-aged guy just trying to have fun. So this is the bike I went with, and in fact, again, this is the one part where I think they got a little bit confusing. This is sometimes referred to as the Kona Process 134, like AL for aluminum. You'll see that there's also the DL and the CR, and in fact, if you're interested, I put together like a little spec sheet showing the differences. And again, this is the guy that I ended up going with, was pretty much the most economical entry-level full suspension bike. And you can see that the difference when you go from this 134 AL up to the, say, the DL, I try to color code it. The red means that it's a better component or a different component than the lower level. So here you can see really all you're talking about when you jump up in price, going from $2,600 to $4,000. It's just components, right? The frame is the same, the sizing's the same, but otherwise it's just better components as you start moving up. But then if you want to go from the DL all the way up to this CR/CL, now you're talking like a carbon frame, and you're talking another $1,000 to get yourself that better frame and some more components. So again, this is great. As you saw, my old mountain bike was kind of let's just call it old. Maybe that's the best adjective. It was a loyal, reliable, trusted bike, but it was old. All of this is going to be a huge, huge, huge improvement. So I'm just going to start in at the entry level, and this is what I decided to go with. It was, again, this Kona Process 134AL. And again, we can probably go back to the website, and I'll just show you kind of the specs of it. But here's the bike, and here's all the specs. I ended up getting a medium. Well, actually, that's actually an interesting story. I decided on the medium, and I decided on this bike, so now it's time to probably go ahead and try to order this. So let's call up my local bike shop and see if I can put one of these on order. So this is where things got interesting. So I initially decided that I wanted to try to pick up this new mountain bike. It turns out in February 2021, which is in the middle of the pandemic. And as you may know, demand for bikes for some reason during the pandemic have shot up to an all-time high. And then you combine that, I think, with some of the supply chain issues that were present due to the pandemic. And you basically have a recipe for super duper long wait times on ordering bikes, or even seeing if they even have the possibility of even putting one on order. So for example, when I walked into my local bike shop, the one in my town, and I noticed that they were an authorized Kona dealer, so I went in to talk to them and said, hey, this is the bike I'm interested in. Here's I've got my money, I'm ready to pay. Can you put one on order for me? And they actually they wouldn't even take my money, right? I walked in there and I said, here's the money, and they almost just kind of laughed and said, you know what, I'm not even going to try to take your money, because Kona is not giving us any idea on when we might be getting bikes. There's no guarantee that you might be able to get this bike. In fact, there weren't even any bikes to really test ride. So I pretty much had to say I wanted this bike sight unseen, based on all the research I had done. And even with that, even with the money in hand, with being willing to waive a test ride, they wouldn't even put it on order for me. So strike one. So I went to another bike shop. I went to Recycled Cycles in Seattle, and they're great. When I was at the University of Washington, I would go there all the time. They have used bikes, they have new bikes, and again, they're an authorized Kona dealer. So I said, hey, can you order this Process 134 for me? And they said, back in February of 2021, they said, sure, we anticipate if you put down $1,000 now, we'll be able to get you this bike by, say, June or maybe July at the latest, right? So I said, okay, that's great. That is kind of in time for summer, so let's go ahead and do it. So I put down $1,000 deposit, and they said they would call me when they knew more information. Well, June, July rolls around and nothing. So I ended up calling back Recycled Cycles and asked to check in on the status, and they said, yeah, they were subject to all of those supply chain issues that every other bike shop was, and they were having trouble basically getting any of these bikes in the store. So I said, at that point, they were actually really nice. They said, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue waiting? And they actually even said, we'll give you your deposit back, because we're not sure when we're going to be able to get this bike, so we'll give you your money back. So I said, okay, that's great, but I would still love to be kept on a list in case that one of these bikes do become available. And they said, yeah, sure, we'll keep your name on the list. And I sort of thought that was the last I would ever hear from them. To be honest, I kind of put the bike out of my mind and said, oh, well, I guess I missed this summer season. Maybe I'll try again after the pandemic's over. So I did that. I waited, and then turns around kind of in late January of 2022, they actually called me back and said, hey, you know, we've had your name on this list for, you know, almost a year. And you know what? Kona called us and said, we actually have one of those bikes, the ones you're interested in, a Process 134 29er in a medium frame. Are you still interested? So I said, yeah, I'm totally interested. Thanks so much for keeping me on the list. And I said, you know, here, I'll give you my my $1,000 deposit again. Just let me know when the bike comes in. And lo and behold, about a week later, so this is early February of 2022, they said, hey, your bike's here. It's built up. It's ready to go. So as you can see, here it is. So I was thrilled. Again, Recycled Cycles really took care of me. I was surprised that they remembered my name for over a year. And yeah, like I said, just due to the pandemic, it took me over a year to get the bike, and Recycled Cycles stuck with it, and they eventually got this bike into my hands. So yeah, as you can see, here it is. I'm thrilled to be walking out the shop with a bike, and it's time to now throw this thing on the roof of the van and bring it home. All right, so finally got her home, and gee, I just wanted to some video and document how clean and pretty it looks, because I'm hoping it's never going to be this clean again, and hopefully we'll get this thing a little bit dirty playing around in the mud. But anyway, maybe what I think we'll do is maybe I'll bring up the specs of the various components here on the side, and let's just take a tour of the bike and look at each of these components in turn. So I guess first starting off with the frame. So again, it's this Kona 6061 aluminum frame, which is in this nice kind of maroon color. I guess they call it gloss thunder. It's got some stickers inside, kind of some interesting places. But again, this is the frame. Again, you can kind of see the kind of more quote-unquote modern geometry of the frame. Also, what I thought was interesting is take a look at this rear kind of swing arm for the chainstays. If you look at this straight on, notice that it's angled, so it's not basically perpendicular to the ground. It is it's kind of I guess angled is the best way to describe it. So yeah, that's interesting. So again, pretty much that's what we've got to do and talk about with the frame. All right, so again, this was the medium size, and again, I think you can kind of see that they stick that over here. So it's a medium size frame. I'm about 5'10", so I think I'm on the larger side of this, but I wanted a smaller bike to be a little bit more maneuverable, easier to climb with, etc., etc. Now let's go back here to the rear shock. So the rear shock, as you can see, it's a RockShox Deluxe Selectronian. Again, pretty, I don't know if there's much else to say. I'll just take a look at it. Yeah, it's got obviously adjustments here. There you go. So that's the rear shock. Let's come up here to the fork. So the fork is a RockShox Recon RL motion control. It's got 140 millimeters taper with 110 millimeter spacing. So yep, here it is. That was looking great. And again, we've got some adjustments here on the top. Let me see if I can see that a little bit easier. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see with the camera angle. But yep, you got air on that side, an adjustment on this side. Okay, so that's the front fork and the shocks. Okay, so let's look at the crank arms. The crank arms, I think there's nothing special here, just Shimano Deore. Now the chain ring, this is where it comes. It's pretty great. So the front chain ring, now we've got a 1x drivetrain, so only one here in the front. This is a 30 tooth. And then, since we're here, we can stare at the bottom bracket, I guess, sort of. One thing that's interesting about this bottom bracket, I guess, it's hollow. I'm not 100% sure if that's standard. I might want to print some, 3D print some caps on this so I don't get mud and dirt and gravel and junk inside there. But again, you can see that if you look through this, you can see clear out to the other end. Okay, so pedals, yeah, no pedals that come on this bike. I'm going to throw on a pair of my own in a second. The chain, it's theoretically a KMC X11, but again, I don't know if you can see anything about that. I'm sure this is a pretty entry-level chain, nothing fancy. And again, let's go take a look now at the at kind of the rear cassette. It's a Shimano Deore. It's an 11 speed, so the smallest one right down there should be an 11 tooth. tooth going all the way up to a 50 tooth. So again, this is what's great, I think, about the one-by drivetrain. Makes this a lot simpler. Now, there's no chain guide, but although there is sort of this chain protection here, there's this nice little rubber piece. I don't know if you can see it. It says it's embossed with the Kona logo, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, if you look at this, you can see the adhesive is already starting to kind of come off. So I'm not entirely, yeah, look at this. See, it's not really sticking on right here. You can kind of see. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure that this sort of chain slap guard is going to last super duper long, but all right, I guess it's better than nothing. Okay, where were we? I guess again, no front derailleur, right? which is awesome. In terms of the rear derailleur, yeah, we've just got pretty much standard Shimano Deore there. Same thing with the shifter. It's a Shimano Deore shifter, as you can kind of see up here. One thing that is interesting about this, which maybe this is standard on a lot of new mountain bikes, but again, I'm used to kind of the older ones, but obviously, again, to shift up is thumb, to shift to downshift is thumb, to upshift is like this with your thumb trigger, and typically, yeah, I'm always used to doing this, pulling the trigger, but this shifter, you can pull like that, obviously, to shift up, or you can actually push from this direction. So if you push there like that, look at that. So for whatever reason, you can upshift by either this or the pulling back. So it's kind of nice. It's got that double action. So for some reason you're in some compromised position, you want to shift here, I guess you can do that. So again, that's kind of an interesting bit about the shifter. Okay, so what else are we talking about? Oh, let's talk about the brake calipers. So again, here's the front brake caliper. I guess they're these Alhonga. Again, what's nice is it's the 474. They're hydraulic, and hydraulic disc brakes on the front and in the rear. But again, I'm sure these calipers are nothing awesome to write home about, but you know, improvement from my other one. Now let's take a look here. So check this out. Here we go. Now we got our front brake rotor. So we got 180 millimeters. I think you can see that right there. 180 millimeter Alhonga front brake rotor. The rear brake rotor, it's the same Alhonga, but it's smaller. You can kind of see right here. It's 160 millimeter. Here. And then let's take a look at the brake levers. Again, they're these Alhonga hydraulics. Again, nothing awesome, or I don't think there's anything super cool to talk about the brake levers. Again, this will be interesting. On my old bike, when I had hydraulic brake levers here, it was a lot. There was a well up here to kind of store the brake fluid and for bleeding it. So I assume that's what these are for. We're going to play with those later, I'm sure, when we're doing maintenance on the brakes. But again, okay, pretty standard brake levers. Headset, I guess we can take a look at here. Yeah, I guess this is a FSA. The handlebars, they're pretty darn wide. They're these Kona XC-BC 35s. Same thing, you can kind of see the stem up there. Now this is what's awesome. Check it out. I'm super excited about this. The seat post, we've actually got a dropper seat post. So you can kind of see right there, it's the Tranex dropper, and it's got, you can kind of see quasi-internal routing. So I guess the cable for the dropper post, you come down here, there it is. And now, theoretically, right, you can come up here to the lever and actuate it. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Push a button and the thing pops up. So again, I'm super excited about that dropper seat post. We're going to play around with that again a little bit more in the video. Again, I've never had a dropper seat post, so I'm very excited about that. What else? I think we've covered the main bits. I mean, yeah, the grips, whatever. These are pretty standard grips that come with it, nothing super special. Same thing with the saddle. This is, I might even move the saddle from my other bike over to here because this does not look like anything special by any means. And then all right, I guess now the hub, I don't know, can't really see anything about the hub. Does this thing spin? Yes, it spins. Okay, that's great. Same thing with the rear hub. Yeah, the wheel spins, so I think that's great. The spokes, that's funny that they call out the spokes. Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything to really talk about. The rims, for both the front and the back, you can see they're these WTB ST I30s, and they are tubeless compatible. So the guy at the bike shop said, I believe they're already taped up and ready to run tubeless, but they're not actually set up tubeless right now for these rims and tires. And I guess while we're talking about the tires, you can kind of see the front tire. It comes with a bike, right? It's this Maxxis Minion DHF XOTR, and again, this is a 29er. Now, the one you can see in the front is actually a 29 by 2.5 inch, and then the one in the rear, for whatever reason, it's you can kind of see it's the same tire. It's just ever so slightly more narrow. So this is a 29 by 2.4 instead of 2.5. And again, at the bike shop, I've seen some people where their bike shop will actually set this up for them tubeless out of the box, but Recycled Cycles, I think, went with the standard stock build, and right now it's currently running inner tubes, but I think I will switch this over to tubeless in the future at some point. But right now it's set up as a inner tube setup. Yeah, so I think we've kind of come down to the list. So again, you can see the color, right? I guess they call this color Gloss Thunder, and you can see the different decals they've got all over the bike. It looks really nice. Again, I don't know what else to really talk about with the bike right now, other than, okay, I guess it's got some reflectors on the rear and on the front that the bike shop put on. I think I'm gonna probably end up removing those. But yeah, overall, this is the bike. So I waited, actually the bike shop waited for me. They got a number of just under 36 pounds. So it's not light by any means. In fact, I waited again on my bathroom scale and also came up with that number of about 36 pounds. Comparing this to my old Flying Monkey, the old bike was 33 pounds. So this guy is actually heavier, but again, it's much beefier than the old bike, right? This has got 29er wheels. The other ones had older, smaller wheels, and yeah, like it's just much more beefy. So again, I'm very excited about that. But again, this is all the weight without the pedals. So tell you what, maybe the next thing we should do to get this guy ready to rock is let's throw some pedals on the bike. All right, so we're running flats on this, and I like these pedals. These are these Chester Race Face pedals. I actually made a dedicated video on these pedals. I've had them on my old mountain bike for about the past year, so I just ripped them off, and let's throw them on this bike now. So again, let's grab the right one, and again, I always got to remember the right side of the bike. I think this crank arm should have a normal thread, so in the sense that I should be able to just turn this clockwise to tighten it and screw it in, and yep, there he goes. So that is in. And then again, the nice thing about these pedals is they actually have a hole on the back for a 6mm Allen, so I don't actually need to grab a pedal wrench, and I can actually just turn this and tighten it like such. So again, the nice thing is yep, you don't need a pedal wrench here. Okay, so all right, that guy's on. Now we'll grab the left side. And again, what makes the left side interesting is it's the reverse thread. So now I've got to take this pedal and now put it in and turn it counterclockwise to tighten it. All right, let's see if this thing goes in. Yep, there we go. Okay, so let me tighten this guy in, and then hopefully I think we're almost ready to go. All right, so another small thing I want to do before taking it out is, well, I took off the reflectors, that rear reflector and the front reflector that I think the bike shop put on. I just took those off because I don't really anticipate riding a ton at night. But the other thing that I want to do is with this press fit bottom bracket, right, which was hollow, I think what I ended up doing is I made myself some parts. So I 3D printed 2 of these little end caps to kind of cover up the holes. And these things, they don't weigh anything, they're next to nothing. And I'm hoping it's going to save me the weight of all the dirt and grime and whatever that might get stuck in here in the bottom bracket. So I just printed these guys in orange to kind of match the pedals, but they should just kind of fit in. Yeah, just like that. There we go. There's one on that side, and then this other side's a little bit more intricate. As you can see, it's got some pattern to match this part of the bottom bracket, but again, it should just snap right in. Yep, just like that. There we go. I'll leave a link to these parts in the description of this video in case you're interested in printing a pair for yourself as well. But there you go. Okay, I think that looks nice. Now, I don't know about you, but if I can avoid it, I don't like to usually carry a backpack or a camelback or hydration pack, especially if I'm just going out on shorter rides. So one thing that I was interested in is if I could get a water bottle cage on this to carry my water. Now, if you notice on this bike, it doesn't have an immediately obvious place unless you look here on the down tube. There are these, I guess the cable management ties, I guess, or these brackets right here. And if you notice, what's cool about this is those are exactly the right fit for a water bottle cage mounting hole pattern. So what I'm going to do is let's back these out and see if you can actually mount a water bottle cage onto this. So tell you what, let me stick this camera on the tripod so you can kind of see what we're doing. Okay, so now if I just back this out a skosh, in fact, actually, I probably got to take this entire thing off. You'll see, yeah, this is great. The bolt is actually quite long, so I think this is going to work. So let me go ahead and pull one of them off. All right. There we go. So, yeah, it looks like it's out. Hey, I guess we'll see if this is gonna actually, I'm just looking at it, it looks fairly reasonable. Now, that being said, this doesn't leave a ton of space, so I've got, you know, here's two of my water bottles that I usually use. These are my road water bottles. This is, you know, pretty standard, I think 26 ounce. And then I've got a 21 ounce. It's a little bit smaller, especially, and it's got a mud flap that I like for kind of mountain biking and whatnot. Let's see if the 21 ounce will fit in here. It's a, ooh, shucks, that, ooh, oh man, that is like really close. Oh wow, that, I think that will kind, oop, that will kind, man, that's like barely in there. So it is kind of scraping on the fork, or sorry, on the top tube, but you know, there you go. I think that's about as tiny or as big a water bottle as you're gonna get in there. There's no way I'm gonna get the 26 ounce in there. In the future, I might upgrade to a side loading water bottle cage, but you know, this looks halfway reasonable. All right, and let's also check the clearance to make sure that the shock doesn't bottom out. So, hey, look at that. Looks pretty good. See, it's not gonna, doesn't look like it's gonna contact the water bottle, so I think we're good in that department. All right, so here she is, all ready to go. I just feel like I have to take a couple of pictures of it being this pristinely clean because like I said earlier, hopefully this is the last time you'll see it this clean. I'm excited to go take it down to the bike park and give it a try. So again, let's just for completeness take a look at how nice the finish is, and I think we're all set, ready to go. So let's go ahead and take her out for a spin. So far, I'm really loving the bike, but as we saw, pretty much anything is an upgrade from my previous ride. So I've had the bike for about 2 months now, and I've done about 10 or 15 rides on it and put around 100 miles on it. So I've ridden it on a mix of single track, some downhill, some bike park, a lot of pavement, and really just a couple times goofing around the park with the kids, and it's been great. It feels really solid and handles much better than my old bike. The larger 29-inch wheels seem to roll over things easier and maintain speed and momentum much better than my older, smaller wheel set. In addition, the disc brakes work much better than my old rim brakes and have a lot better modulation and stopping power. Now, I mostly ride green or blue trails with some smaller drops and features, and the bike performs great here. In fact, I might have gotten a little bit overconfident with the bike and taken it down a black diamond once or twice where I had to navigate some larger features and drops, and I'm happy to say that I didn't break any bones and the bike got me safely through these obstacles. In fact, I've actually got a quantitative set of data on how this bike has increased my performance because I was able to compare some of my old segments on Strava with some of my new times on the new bike, and on average, most of my times have improved all around. Now that being said, one place where the bike didn't really blow me away was on the weight. It's definitely a bit sluggish on climbs due to the fact that it's a little bit heavy, being a comparable weight to my old ancient dinosaur tank, right? Now, that being said, I still improved my climbing times, and the ability to lock out the suspension was really helpful, and we'll talk more about that later. Well, she's not as clean as she used to be, but it's like I tell my kids, it's during the summer, if you don't have cuts and bruises and scrapes, you're not having fun. Same thing with the bike. If your bike isn't covered in mud, it probably means you're not having fun. So speaking of mud, I did make a couple of additions to the bike. So I did add a little DIY mud flap on the front. I have a dedicated video for that if you're interested in how I made that. I also added a bash guard down here. So I've got this taco style bash guard. Again, I've got a dedicated video on that, and the nice thing about this bike is that it integrates directly onto the frame, no modifications necessary, so that was pretty easy. Yeah, so that worked out well, and I could actually, I'm actually kind of pleased I was able to keep the color scheme working with this orange pedals, orange bash guard, and all that other stuff. Oh, I guess one other kind of very minor thing while we're talking about color scheme, I do like the fact that, you know, there's these teal stickers on it, there's like teal detailing here, which actually surprisingly matches my bike shoe. So I'm able to keep this fairly color coordinated, and like I said, it's performed great. Let's talk about some of the details that I really do enjoy. All right, so what else has been a game changer for me on this bike? So the very first thing that I feel like I need to mention is this dropper seat post. I completely thought this was going to be a gimmick and it was a nice to have, but now that I've ridden with it, it's one of those things where I can't imagine I ever lived without it. So again, the nice thing about this dropper seat post is that literally the post will drop up and down with the push of a button. So over here on the left, if I just press this lever here, the seat comes up like that. With one button push, you can basically go from a downhill configuration to a seated riding configuration. This makes it infinitely easier when you're going up trails or up a fire road or just on pavement. You can actually ride in a comfortable seated pedaling position, and then when you get to the top of the trail and you're ready to drop in, all you really need to be doing is you just put some weight on the seat, push the button, and it goes down again, and you're able to descend effectively. So this has been an absolute game changer where I now don't need to carry a tool around, and I don't need to stop my ride halfway between transitioning from climbing to descending. I can just go up and down and just press the button, and the seat post comes up and down on command. So this has been absolutely phenomenally great for me, especially with the style of riding where I like to go, and I don't really like to take breaks. I want to keep my heart rate up, and I don't need to now get off the bike in order to make adjustments to the height of the seat post. While we're talking about adjustments as well, one other thing that was really nice about this bike that I did not have in the past was the ability to quickly change the suspension tuning. So on my old bike, it was pretty much you set it and that's it. You'd have to get off and again make a lot of changes in order to change how the suspension behaves. So right now you can just change the front fork very easily. So right now I have it in a stiff mode where it's much easier for pedaling uphill or again on pavement or on streets, where now the fork is not very responsive. So it almost acts like a rigid bike. Same thing with the rear shock. You can make quick adjustments here, and now when you sit on this, you see that you don't get much suspension. So this almost acts like a hardtail. So this makes it much more efficient and effective to transfer energy from your pedal stroke to forward momentum, right? So this is great, again, when you're going up a fire road or a gravel road, or you're on pavement and you're just trying to get where you need to be, and you're really not hitting a lot of bumps and you don't need the full suspension. Now, when you get to the top, again, same thing. What you can easily do is just flip a lever here on the front fork, and now the front fork is much more responsive and progressive, right? And same thing with the rear shock. You quickly just reach down, turn a knob, and now it responds, right? So this whole bike now has basically turned into your nice full suspension ride. So again, the ability to change configurations from a full suspension downhill configuration to locking the suspension and then raising the seat post, right? And you now have an efficient flat pedal bike. So this is great. Talking about other things that are great that I like is the 1x drivetrain. So now that the left side of your cockpit is taken up with the dropper seat post control, you obviously don't have a derailleur to change the front gear, but I've actually also found I really like this. I thought I would be missing those extra gears that a 3x front cog would have bought you, but actually I find it much more simple and easier to just have a 1x drivetrain and just manipulate gears in the back, and I have never once needed or missed those extra gears. So, like I said, with this, I'm thrilled with this bike. Again, I might not be the best person to get perspective on a new bike like this, because you saw my old bike was absolutely ancient and anything is an upgrade from that. But I am thrilled and very happy with it so far, and I'm looking forward to a lot more downhill bike rides. So, with that being said, I think this is probably a great spot to leave it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, I also hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. Surprisingly, if you just scroll a little ways down and click on that subscribe button, it really does help me continue making these videos. And remember, the new videos come out every Monday, so I hope I'll be able to catch you at one of these future discussions and we can all learn something new together. So until then, I think I'm going to sign off. Talk to you later. Bye.